listening to the Straight to Video podcast with Rob Lane.
What's up? Hope you're well. Welcome along to a brand new Straight to Video podcast. Today I chat with, well, I'm kind of lucky to be able to say another rock and roll legend on the show. John Rhino Edwards swings by to talk all about his new album, Just Saying, which has just been released, and the stories behind some of the songs and the really cool guest appearances on the record. Rhino is, of course, the longtime bass player for rock and roll icons and legends Status Quo. He's been holding down the low end since joining back in 1986 after meeting and recording with the late Rick Parfitt on his unreleased solo album. Rhino has also shared the stages with Dex's Midnight Runners, Kim Wilde, and I discover straight-to-video favourites Romeo's Daughter. We have a great time chatting about all of this, and there's some really fun stuff in today's talk. As always, the Straight to Video podcast is proudly presented to you in association with Affinity Photo. Affinity Photo is an incredible piece of photo editing software which I use for graphic design all the time. It's used to create the podcast episode artwork you can see each week, and it's an extremely affordable alternative to other programs on the market. So please swing by and show them some support at affinity.serif.com. All right, time to dive in. If you want to pick up the new album, Just Saying, from Rhino's Revenge, it's available exclusively through John's website, rhinosrevenge.com, with CD and vinyl options, and all videos from the new songs are currently streaming online. But right now, please enjoy my Straight to Video chat with John Rhino Edwards. That instant rock star.
Instant something, I'll give you that. Okay, well, now let's have a look. Do I look all right? I mean, we've got a house near the coast.
Oh, wicked. Whereabouts are you?
Wittering.
Oh, nice. Is the sun shining for you there today? It's nice here.
No, shit. We had pissing rain this morning as well. No, I'll try not to swear.
It's fine. Swear as much as you want, mate. It's fine. No worries.
I'm trying not to. No, I mean, it shows a certain ignorance, I suppose. But right, let's have a go. Yeah, that looks all right. Yeah, I mean, I did one before, and I had a little look at it, and you could see my vest underneath my shirt and all that. I looked like I've been dragged through a hedge backwards, and I was in the spare room at home, which was a right mess.
Mate, Zoom can be cruel sometimes.
Hit it. Let's go.
So how are you enjoying the new album's response? Just saying, it's been out for, was it 3 weeks now? So have you got a chance to get a feel of people's reactions?
Yeah, it's been very good. Thank you very much. And we're actually selling it, which is a very old-fashioned thing to do, as opposed to putting it across your socials. You know, it's amazing how many people have still got CD players. But, you know, I mean, I'm very happy with the amount of people, not the amount of people that bought it, because I'm not doing this for the money. The reaction that I've been getting, you know, it's all been good. Bizarrely, I've had one bad review, which was in classic rock, and I just don't think the bloke got what I was trying to say. But there you go. At least he listened to it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it, with new music. You put it out there, you can't control what comes back.
Oh, no, I wouldn't want to. You know, as I said, this chap quoted some of the lyrics, so he's listened to it. That's all I want. If you don't like it, I don't care. At least you listen to it. I mean, I've seen reviews of bands back in the day of people I knew, and I knew that the reviewer hadn't even been at the gig.
I've come across that before.
Back in the day when, you know, the Melody Maker and Enemy were king, you know, they could really make your career. People were getting reviews and they were quoting different songs that hadn't been played. Oh, that went down really well with the crowd. No, it didn't, mate.
I was at a gig a few years ago and some guy came backstage before we'd gone on and he said, I'm reviewing for such and such magazine. And the support band came on and I said, oh, do you want to go out and see them so you can review them? He says, no, I've done the review already. I'm like, what?
There you go.
It's bizarre. It really is. But you're offering it exclusively through your website, I believe. When did you adapt that approach? Is it something you've done on previous releases?
Well, the first album I did, I actually signed a record deal. Remember those things? The second one we did in conjunction with a distributor called Cargo. But this time we just decided, you know, why not just do it ourselves? I mean, you can get it out there to people, you know, and then it's up to them will they buy it or not. We've put a couple of tracks on Spotify, but I'm not a fan. I'm quite old-fashioned. I think you should pay for your music. You know, wow, how ridiculous is that? But people expect something for nothing all the time now. They'll quite happily pay Netflix to watch a film. Pay for music? No. We put a couple of tracks on Spotify, but I've got the right word for Spotify. I'm on one now. I feel that the royalty that's paid by all these people, slightly less YouTube, it's derisory to the artist. And as is normal, the people that make the most money make even more money because they can't be asked to give it to the little people. You know, there's a thing with PRS. They're not going to bother to pay small amounts to little people anymore.
I heard that, yeah.
Great.
What you said earlier, though, about people who've still got CD players, interesting, though. A lot of people don't, but they still want to support the artist, so they'll listen to it on Spotify, but they want to support, so they'll still buy the CD, so they've got that physical, tangible product.
It's very kind of people to do it, and we're selling a lot of vinyl as well, which is nice. I like vinyl for a myriad of reasons because A, you can roll a joint on them.
When was your first experience of that? Did someone show you?
My first experience of that was 55 years ago. Yeah, I was 16.
What was that, 69 or 7?
69. Anyway, so yeah, I've been a long-term advocate of that, if you like. You know, not so much now.
Did you save all your vinyl from back in the day?
No, I wish I had. I mean, I've rebought a lot. But, you know, then when I do find ones that I've had before, they're scratched to buggery. I buy a fair amount of new stuff on it as well. I've just bought a couple of albums by a band called the Sleaford Mods, which I quite like. I went to see them. It was very disappointing, actually, I must say. But he's a poet, that guy.
I think they're from this neck of the woods, Nottingham kind of way, aren't they?
They're from Nottingham, yeah, they are. Some bands who have a very strong direction like AC/DC, I always say that they have their song, but what a song to have. And the Sleaford Mods have their song, but unfortunately, it's not for me as good a song as some other bands, if you like. It's quite samey, but I like Attitude. And he's not short of attitude.
Do your kids introduce you to music? Because they've become musicians, so do they like introduce you to new bands?
No, not at all. I found Sleaford Mods myself. Jules Holland, I might have seen the one. No, I've turned my kids onto a lot of music. My daughter turned me on to, the last thing that anyone turned me on to, my friend, I think, was Nothing But Thieves. And that was a nice thing to do. You know, we went to see them together. So it's, you know, it's really good, that kind of thing. I mean, my boys, my oldest is really into a lot of jazz. He's a drummer. In fact, my second album, Rhino's Revenge 2, was basically myself, my two sons doing the recording and my daughter doing the backing vocals.
How cool is that?
Oh, it was amazing. I got to tell you, it was 10 days of absolute magic. You know, and the engineer turned around to me one day and he said, "Do you know what, Rhino?" He said, "I'd never thought a drummer saying, 'Dad, what about that drum fill there? What do you think of it?'" You know, and they're great. They played amazingly. You know, and Freddie is still my favourite guitar player. In fact, he's featured quite heavily on my new album.
Wonderful.
Everything he plays blows me away. But he did a solo on a track called Limbo. And it's just, you know, it's like the songs, I really like the song, but then the guitar solo comes and says, that's really good.
Just takes it to another level.
First take, you know, he's such a player. He knows exactly what I want. And he doesn't think he can play rock music very well. He's wrong.
You're not the only bass player on this album. You've got Chris from Muse guesting on bass.
That's right, yeah.
He's been a long-time friend and fan, I believe.
Yeah, and there was a time when Rick Parfitt got sick and my Freddie had left. Why? I don't know.
Was he sick of you? He's like, I can't be around my dad for much longer.
No, not at all. He loved it, but his band had a big record deal with Red Bull Records, and he wanted to do that. And I, you know, all credit to him. He left for artistic reasons.
That takes some balls to do something like that, to walk away from something.
Yeah, and the band is not really taken off, unfortunately. They're called Flaws, by the way, Flaws. They haven't really taken off, sadly, but yeah, he left and we were stuck for some shows, I think. I was talking to Chris about it. He said, "I'll do it." I said, "Yeah, right, you know." Anyway, he said, "No, I will." I came home. There's an email in my post. He'd gone home and played the intro to Whatever You Want. And it was spot bollock on. It was fantastic. But we needed someone permanently. He said he would have done a few shows, but, you know, obviously, you know, I don't know why he didn't leave Muse. What's up with that man?
Do you recall the first time you heard his insane bass playing? Because it's just like next level.
Yeah, when I realised that my Freddie was going to be such a good player, he was about 12. And there's a song by Muse. I mean, I'm not good on the titles, even though I love the album Absolution. They go do 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 do. Freddie came home from school and he was about 11 or 12, and for about 3 days, I was in the summer, I could just hear this riff coming out. And after about 3 days, he'd got it. Like, you could really hear it. He'd got it. I thought, you got it because you've got the aptitude for it and you've also got the tenacity. And what my Freddie has got is he's got the touch, which you can't teach people. You can learn all the chops and all the techniques and everything and all the tricks, but if you haven't got the touch, forget it. People like Peter Green, you know, Jeff Beck, they all had the touch.
My all-time favourite band's Van Halen, and that's what you say. You could play on Eddie's guitar through Eddie's rig, but it still wouldn't sound like him.
Oh, no, sure. Our old drummer Matthew used to play with Hank Marvin, and he had his signature guitar, and he'd get people coming in, bringing the guitar backstage and meet him to say, "Hank, we bought this guitar, and there's something wrong with it." And he'd say, well, okay, well, I've got an amp, let's plug it in and see what's wrong with it. And he said, all of a sudden, he said it would always sound like Hank Marvin playing the guitar. They'd be going, okay, bye, Hank. Thanks very much. Yes, guitar's working fine. It must be me.
Yeah, it's all in the fingers.
Yeah, I think so, which is which is why I've got fists. I've got hands like feet. They're really big. But anyway, Chris, I just thought, okay, then, let's see what you really like on the shuffle on the bass. And I texted him, said, you fancy playing on my album? He said, yeah, what instrument? Because he's also a really good drummer, by the way. One of those people you hate. He's really good at bass, drums and guitar. And he said, yeah, absolutely. What do you want me to play? And I said, bass, because come on, let's see if you can play a shuffle. He said, sweet, I'd love to. So he played on a track called My Side of the Road. And of course, he totally nailed it.
Oh, amazing.
He's a great player. And he's also a top bloke. And he supports proper football. He's a big Rotherham supporter.
Well, there you go.
Even though they're doomed.
And you've also got Craig Joyner of Romeo's Daughter on the album. You've been longtime friends and collaborators.
Yeah, absolutely. Craig's on the album as well. I've played with Romeo's Daughter a few times.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, when they were in between bass, but I had a great thing. I really learnt it, I got up early every day for 3 weeks and I just went down to my studio up by 6 a.m. You know what it's like. If you know what you're doing, you can really enjoy yourself. As opposed to if you're not that sure of what you're doing, you're always worried about whether you're going to make a mistake or not. So I really learnt it. And on the second gig we were doing, he made a cock up. I remember looking over to him and I just went, oh yeah. And I'm playing away and he's cracked up laughing because I think that song might have had a bit of track on it that stopped the track and everything, and I'm just looking at him. I'm looking at him laughing my head off. Yeah, he's a great guy, Craig. He also happened to have a heart attack on stage with me.
Wow.
A major heart attack.
I know he was ill a few years ago.
Yeah, it was because of me. No, we were on stage in Germany. Halfway through a song called Busy Doing Nothing, we were on a quiet bit. I turned around and looked at him and he said, mate, I don't feel so good. And Bosch collapsed.
That's scary.
And he did the same again, funnily enough. We were just about to go on tour to Holland and on the day he passed out in my kitchen. We don't know why. To this day, unfortunately, it meant I couldn't go on my tour, but there you go, But he came out with me last year and we did 18 shows together and he's still here.
There you go. He's doing all right.
In fact, I'm going to speak to him after I've spoken to you.
Original Romeo's Daughter bassist Ed Paul. He's a beast.
Yeah, I know Ed, yeah.
He's a fantastic bass player.
He plays with Bonnie Tyler, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
He's a very nice guy, however.
However, what?
Too many strings on the bass, mate.
Yeah, he's got that extra on that you don't need. I love the vibe on the promo videos you've released, which were recorded at the Hotbox in Chelmsford.
That's right, yeah.
Did you book a show there to record, or was it like a personal invite to fans and friends to come out to be in the crowd?
We cancelled the show first time round, and I can't think why I wasn't well. And so we went back and do it at the end, and we suddenly realised we really missed a trick, and we hadn't filmed any of the shows because we'd done some great locations. But luckily, as it happens, that location was brilliant.
It looks amazing. It looks really, really cool.
Oh, do you know what? And it's great. This is one for the more technical minded. It only holds 90 people. They've got their own backline in this tiny, tiny venue. They struggle to keep the venue open. And, you were saying earlier about people buying a CD and not listening to it. Well, all I would say to people, if you want to keep live music going, take a chance. If it's 15 quid, 20 quid to go and see a band, you might find that you really like something. I listened to an interview with Noah Gallagher. I'm digressing. I do that all the time. But he said something about his brother, which was brilliant. He said he is a man with a fork in a world of soup. It made me laugh so much. But he said that Oasis were probably the last band that broke it big without the internet, because now it's just, I've seen this great band. Everyone's straight on YouTube, having a look at this blow. Oh, do I like it? Or maybe not, if it's badly shot. But people would go home and tell their mates the next day, I've seen this amazing band. Oh, and their records on the radio. You had to wait to hear, or you had to go and buy the album. That kind of vibe doesn't really exist anymore, which is unfortunate. But it's sad. I mean, I wouldn't like to be a band trying to make it today.
Scary. I mean, you could almost say that it's not easier, but you got more control these days. But the market's so flooded.
Exactly. As Nick Lowe said, even a lizard could make a record nowadays. There's people out there who think that it's really easy. And it isn't, in my opinion. The technology has made it easier, but you still got to be good. I've got my recording implement just behind me. I could knock out a song by the end of today and put it up online. Wouldn't necessarily be any good. That's the thing. And also all this more control. I think sometimes it's good to let other people decide what's good and what isn't. I was in Dexter's Midnight Runners and they didn't want to put out Come On Eileen. I believe Kevin wanted it to be the B-side. And the record company says, no.
This is the hit.
No, that's the A-side. Yeah, that was a great band to be in. I was in Dexys for a year. That was great fun. Really enjoyed it.
You did the Young Ones with Dexys. That's like peak 80s, that is, being on the Young Ones.
Oh, absolutely. Do you know, that was the first day after I joined. I got a phone call from the manager saying, do you want to do a TV show? I lived near. He said, well, be at BBC Television Centre tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So I get there. It's the first series of the Young Ones. It was called Bomb, I think, the episode. And I remember sitting there in the theatre in the afternoon watching the rehearsals with the keyboard player. And what the hell is this? This is bonkers.
It's chaos. It's carnage.
Yeah, absolute controlled chaos. Actually, it wasn't even controlled. It was really mad. I think they were making a lot of it up as they went along.
How old was everybody back then, do you think, in the young ones?
Well, I suppose they're about my age now. I suppose they're all about 70. I actually got to meet Nigel Planer quite a few times. My wife's best mate and his wife were best mates as well. So we spent quite a lot of time together back in the day. He's a nice guy.
Your first experience of Status Quo, though, that was seeing them perform in a pub in Twickenham back in 71.
The Winning Post, yeah? Supported by Thin Lizzy.
That's unreal. Where was your career at that point? Was you already playing bass?
Around about that time, actually. I think I was 17. My dad saw an advert in the paper. I'd just been chucked out of the band I was playing with. Playing guitar and violin, and he said, "There's a band looking for a bass guitarist here," in the local paper. So I rang it up. Yeah, we're auditioning this Scout Hat. And I get there, and they're all a lot older than me. I was 17, I know that, and they were all 35, which is ancient in those days. We played Hey Joe and Born to Be Wild, and I'd never played a bass before. I borrowed a bass off a friend. They said, "Yeah, you got the job," and they had gigs. And I was getting like a $5 for a gig. Get in. Called Maniac Mouse they were. And they used to treat me like shit. It was a good crowd. They were actually really nice people. But anyway, a few months later, I asked them, "How come I got the job?" I said, "Well, you're the only one that turned up." And it's true, this is all true, so these things were meant to be. But we played in Plymouth in 1998, I think it was. No, 2003, Heavy Traffic. And I got an email from a bloke, and he said, "I was watching Quo today. I kept thinking I knew you. I couldn't think who you were." And then he said, it suddenly struck me. And he said, "I was the drummer in Maniac Mouse who was hopeless." They were all really crap. But he said, "Just to let you know that within 2 weeks, we all knew you were far better than any of us were ever going to be." And I'm just so thrilled to have seen that we were a stepping stone in your career. I'm so happy for you.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh, this is treating me like shit, though. Oh. We used to rehearse in a Scout hut, and every week they'd find an excuse to send me over to the other side of the room. And I'd go over to this hut, and it was a bang, bang, and there was all these bags of footballs there, and they used to be kicking the footballs at me as hard as they could. And I was never allowed to sit in the front of the van, but actually they were really nice people, bizarrely, You
probably learnt a lot of, respect and grounding and stuff like that.
It was proper grounding, and then, then my career really sort of took off in 1975. My first professional thing was doing an album with a French megastar. I went to this flat in Kensington to meet all the other people in the band. I knew one of them. There's this guy, Nino. I said, I thought his name was Neon. I'd never heard of it, whatever. "Hello, how are you, Anyway, so we said it's time to go, and he lived just outside Paris. And he said, "Okay, would you like to go in the Mercedes or the Bentley?" This is 1975. I have the choice of a Bentley S-Type or an ex-Nazi staff car, Mercedes staff car. I mean, this could be good. And he had this mansion in Rueil-Malmaison, just outside Paris, and it was just a mega, mega time. And then he said, "I really like the way you guys play together. Would you like to stay on and write some songs and do your own album in my house?" And it was one of the worst albums ever. If you ever find an album by the Spam band, SPAMM, burn it. Don't listen to it.
Don't bring it to a Quo gig to get autographed.
I have actually signed one by some absolute madman, I mean, God, if you buy that, you need testing, I'm telling you. I forgot the big deal, why I play bass. I went to see Free on the 7th of November 1969 at Richmond Athletic Ground. Free, Groundhogs, Joanne Kelly, Brett Marvin and the Thunderbolts. I think it was 7 and 6 to get in. And I just walked in there. I'd been chucked out of the band, as I said, playing guitar. And I just walked out there. That's it. I play bass. Andy Fraser. It was a complete epiphany. This is what I've been looking for all my life, is the bass guitar.
Had you paid much attention to bass prior to that? Or, because, Andy's bass lines, it's really high in the mix. Well, a lot of 60s, early 70s stuff was.
Well, yeah, because the sounds were smaller then. The sonic architecture was a lot easier to achieve. I like Bill Wyman. I thought Bill Wyman was a really good bass player, and I didn't realise how good Paul McCartney was. But every Beatles record was just so amazing.
I was going to ask that because I figured the Beatles might have been big, but once you got into bass, you could go back in and holy shit, I didn't realise how good Paul McCartney was.
I still can't get over how good the Beatles were as a band. I was actually having a conversation with a friend of mine who's another bass player who's actually, I met through my kids. He's a lot younger than me. He's one of their best mates. And we were talking about Angel Bird Can Sing yesterday of Revolver, He said, was that, and he's got a point, he said, was that the first twin guitar record? That riff, twin guitars. I think that's probably my favourite Beatles song ever.
And how he sings and plays bass as well, because there's singing and playing guitar, but there's singing and playing...
Oh, yeah. The bass line on Something is just crazy. It's like a completely different song. It's phenomenal. And I'm not dragging it back to my album, but I didn't try to, but I've come out as sort of as a complete inferior imposter to Paul McCartney on a song called Good Evening Primrose. I played a really busy bass line, 2 takes, and I have to say I'm very happy with it. And someone actually said to me, it's McCartney-esque. I said, absolutely, McCartney-esque.
I'll take it.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, I'm aware that I'm pretty good at what I do, and I'm not big-headed about it. I just am pretty good at it.
You've been doing it long enough.
Exactly. Either that or I've been getting away with it for a long time. I don't know.
Have you seen McCartney live?
No, never met him. Oh, there's a nice Muse story. Chris was saying, they were at a sound check and said Paul McCartney just came straight on the stage, walked straight up to him, shook his hand and said, I love your bass playing, mate. I absolutely love it.
Time to check out then. That's like peak.
Yeah, that'll do, yeah.
Your career, you did the spam stuff, but then your bass playing CV kind of growed and growed. You mentioned Dex's Midnight Runners, you had the Climax Blues Band, Kim Wilde.
Judy Zook was the first one where I sort of really took off, I think. As I said, the thing in France. And from then on, I was just cutting my teeth. I was playing working men's clubs, pubs, trying to get some recording, whatever I could, hustling, I think they used to call it. Yeah, they call it networking now.
Hustling's better.
You have to be pushy. I'm a firm believer that you make your own luck. I mean, I've had a couple of things that are like that. The first message I ever got on my first ever answering machine was from the guitar player with Kim Wilde, who'd been given my number to tell me they were auditioning the next day. He'd been given my number by Alfie Agius, who was the bass player in Teardrop Explodes. I got the Dexys gig. I recorded a song and I was really hopeful of it, that it might do something. It was actually dire, but I didn't think at the time. And I was going off to Rocket Records, who was signed with Judy Zook, and I realised I'd left the cassette at home. I ran back and got it, and the phone was ringing, and I thought, oh, shit, what do I do? Hello, it's Steve talked. Hello, Steve, right? And he said, Kevin Rowan's just rung me up and asked me if I want to join Dex's Midnight Runners. And I said, no. He said, I'm not good enough, but I know someone that is. So they were at these studios, give them a ring, and 3 hours later, I was in Dex's.
That's a proper sliding doors moment, though, isn't it? That is. You could have missed that phone call.
Oh, I know. But everything happens for a reason. I'm a firm believer in that. Everything I've ever gone for, I've got. I think I might have auditioned for Uli John Roth and I didn't get it, but I'm very happy I didn't.
Do you have a quiet confidence when you go into auditions?
No, loud confidence.
A loud confidence.
Right, I'm in a bass player. I got the Judy Zook one. I was at a party with Mike Paxman, who's produced some choir albums and has produced all my 3 albums, who I'd met before, and he really liked my playing. And he said that the record company had just given the money that day to get a band together, and we were both quite tired and emotional. And he said, if you can remember my number, which was 9405169, the gig's yours. So I called him up the next morning. All right, Mike, how you getting on? How's your head?
No way.
He's the new bass player, yeah. And that's where I met Jeff Rich, who became the drummer in Quo for quite a long time. It's all serendipity, really, I think. Again, this story's around everything. I was on my way to do a session at Chipping Norton Studios, and my car broke down. It was a right heap. And I had the choice, I think, of going home, jumping on the train and going home, or getting a cab to the studio. And A, I never saw the car again because I just dumped it. And B, I thought, I can't do this. I've got to...
Got a job to do.
Oh, yeah. So I went off and did that. Mike Vernon was producing it, and he said he didn't really like the artist who I was working with, but he said, I like the way you play. Give us your number. If anything comes up, I'll give you a ring. Yeah, all right. He's like, yeah, great, Mike. Yeah, fantastic. Got a call about 6 weeks later saying I'm doing an album with a guy called Troy Greenland. I'm producing it. Would you like to come play bass on some of it? So I did, and the guitar player on those sessions was called Pip Williams. And Pip said to me at the end of it, said, I really like the way you play. Rhino. He's a lovely bloke, Pip. He's a great guy. He said, would you like to come and play on a couple of tracks from Rick Parfitt's album? And I met Rick, and we ended up doing the whole album. Then Rick introduced me to Francis, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I was still really busy. The day we finished recording, I finished my bass on In the Army Now. They dropped me off at Hatfield Forum because I was doing production rehearsals with Judy Zook, and I went on tour the next day. I mean, my poor wife, I don't know how she puts up with me anyway, but when I was in Dexys, I finished on the 23rd of December with Dexys, and I went out on the 28th of December to Asia with the Climax Blues Band. I was just touring. Don't get me wrong, apart from missing my family, and I asked Freddie once, what do you remember about me when you were growing up? And he just said, you not being there. It was horrible.
Yeah, that must have torn you apart.
Oh, it did. I'm very keen on family. I'm very, very family oriented.
But I guess it comes around full circle with, you're probably closer now.
There was the thing that when I was at home, when the kids were young, I was home full stop. I was there, pick them up from school, drop them off at school, I wasn't tired. We're very close. Yeah, we're in fact, funnily enough, although one lives in America now, we're just booking a holiday for myself, my wife, Freddie and my daughter May and their partners and Freddie's baby. We'll have a week together in a couple of weeks' time. Anyway, back to my album. I digress.
You mentioned how busy you was. I heard something about your first TV performance with Quo. You'd also played with Kim Wilde at the same time.
Yeah, it was a huge pop show in Germany somewhere. I was on with Kim. I think at 2:00 and Quo at 5:30. Yeah, it was great.
Wasn't Francis and Rick say, hey, where's your loyalties? What did they mind that?
Well, I just told them that's how it was, I don't mean I said that's how it is, but I mean, I just said I've got to do this, I don't really wasn't cast in stone, but I didn't know whether it was or not. We were in Belgrade and I'd done about 4 gigs. We were doing these little gigs around Europe. And in the Holiday Inn, I'm walking on the corridor with Francis. I said, you've got to tell me, I need to know if I'm in the band or out, what's happening, because I've got other stuff to do, blah, blah, blah. And he said, oh, you're in. He said, you've been in since day one. We're only doing these gigs to see how your mate pans out, which was Jeff.
Oh, shit.
So you've been in from day one, which is a bizarre thing, really. I mean, I'm a good rock player, but, I can safely say that I didn't look the part. I look like I'd probably be better off playing in Duran Duran. It's not how it panned out, and they stuck with me, which, I think a lot of other bands might not be.
Yeah, well, it's all about, it's not just the playing as well, it's the way you operate within the band format and whether people like having you around. And
I was very close to Rick for a long time. He was living in Bassist. He didn't know where to move. I said, come and live in Teddington. I live in Thames. It's wicked. You'll love it. He was going to get a boat. I said, we've got the river there, He said, oh, what? And that's that. So we were the Teddy Boys for a while. Then by the time he got to his third wife, we drifted apart somewhat. There's a great degree of loyalty from him. And in particular, Francis, actually, I will say Francis is probably the most loyal bloke I've ever met in my life, which is a bizarre thing for someone in the music business. He's on the album, by the way.
There you go, getting them all on, getting all the names.
Absolutely. Get them all in one. I might as well mention them all 5 of them. I wrote a song called Never Too Old to Rock and Roll, which is on Spotify.
That's got a great video as well.
It's good fun, yeah.
There's some really nice chord changes in that one.
I know the bit you mean when it goes to a C from the E, yeah. I know, it's a fluke. I think I probably nicked that bit off Since You've Been Gone.
Right.
Certain chord changes just stick in your head. It's really weird. I put it up the flagpole for Quo, but it didn't get in. And I'm not disappointed because Francis would have had to sing it. He likes it, but he just said it's not for him. There's no point in, you can't, you're flogging a dead horse if you do, because if the vocalist doesn't perform the song, then you can forget it.
I got to ask, do you remember your first Top of the Pops appearance? Had you been on with Dexys prior to Status Quo?
Judy Duke.
Really?
Stay Me Till Dawn, yeah. 79. Well, Shut Up in Your Face was number 1.
Because I think Status Quo hold the record for the most appearances by a group on the show.
They do. Yeah, I only did about 20 or 30, I think.
Only 20 or 30, yeah.
It's great,
Any standout episodes or anyone you have vivid memories of meeting?
We're not really a showbiz band, which is another great reason to be in Quo. I like it. I like being insular. I've always liked that. I mean, I'm a people person, but I get tongue-tied around famous people.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah, totally. Can't handle it. Even if they're twats as well.
Well, you must have met most of your heroes.
No.
No?
I met David Bowie. He was very nice.
Where was that at?
In Nassau. We did an album at Compass Point and he was in the next studio. He offered us a song and we turned it down. I don't know why, really. But back in the day, different times. But yeah, he was very nice. I've seen Simon Kirk a few times, but I've never had the bottle to go and talk to him. And apparently he's an absolute sweetie. I just listened to a 2-hour podcast with him and he sounds like such a nice bloke, but I'm so starstruck. We did a tour. We had Paul Rodgers supporting us. Paul Rodgers. What? Which is great. Don't get me wrong. We're bigger than Paul Rodgers over here, But it's like, you are my all-time favourite vocalist and you're supporting us. I was in the lift with him once and I sort of managed to get a CD out. Paul, could you sign this? Yeah, of course I could, John.
You said my name.
Yeah. I've had a few moments like that. I was a huge Small Faces fan. I actually played with Steve Marriott a few times. Here's a lineup for a band in 1976. Steve Marriott on vocals, Boz Burrell on congas, Simon Kirk on tambourine, John Bonham on drums.
Just throw Simon Kirk on tambourine.
Yeah, Mick Ralph on something else. And the club I was playing in Paris, right? And Bonham come in. It was really nice. He'd broken his wrist. He said, we're going out on tour soon. And we had 2 drummers. He said, is there any chance I could sit in for a set? Yep, French drummers. Au revoir, Pierre. À bientôt. I speak French badly and foully as well. Anyway, he played and he was amazing. And Boss said, oh, do you think I could come and play bass as well? Nope. That's why he ended up on congas. I wasn't going to let that pass me by.
Now, that's when you wish you had an iPhone.
Yeah, I played with John Bonham, and Steve Marriott. I mean, that was quite a stellar. But Andrew Bound was in the Herd, so he knew all the bands. And Mac was playing with Rod Stewart, and we were doing the same venue in Switzerland, Lovely Days Festival. And we're all staying at the hotel by the airport in Zurich. He introduces me to Mac and I have a little chat with him. And I'm going up to my room, and the lift door opens, and Ian McClagg says, all right, Rhino, come down the bar, buy you a pint of Guinness. No, you're all right, mate. You're all right, But thanks anyway. And I said, well, my God, Ian McClaggan just said, hello, Rhino, and offered to buy me a pint of beer. I'm happy. That's what I mean. Big fanboy.
Me as well. You're getting to head out on tour again with Quo in May and some Rhino's Revenge shows later in the year.
Only a bit with my band. With whoever I'm fortunate enough to have playing with me. I'll do some stuff next year, though. I'll retire, but No, I'll never retire.
No, you're never going to retire. Bass player, mate. Someone will always need a bass player.
I don't know about that. No, it's a sad thing about Justin from Delamitri. You know, he's got Parkinson's, you know, and I just, the lovely thing, he said, I always thought I'd be playing in the pub at 80.
Oh, wow.
And he said, it's not going to happen now.
Oh, that's crushing, that is.
It must be, yeah. All I'm going to do is gigs that I really enjoy doing. I'm doing the Half Moon in London, and there's a place in Barnoldswick, which is near Burnley, which is a little tiny gig. It's in the basement. It holds about 60 people. It's brilliant. They love it. The people, you've got to play quietly. It's great fun. The audience are there because they love their music. A couple of hundred punters, that's all I'm good for. Shame, really, because I'm amazing. No, it's a shame, really, but that's how it is.
Are you still taking out Status basses and Mark bass amps?
Yeah, Status basses, best basses in the world, ever. In fact, this one I've got.
Let's have a look.
This is a one-off. I've had this since 1997.
That's nice.
It's a prototype. It's something to do with the Stealth or one of the other. I took it in last week to get it serviced. That's all I use.
Has that done many tours, or do you just keep it at home?
I use it for all the Rhino stuff. Any other gigs I do apart from Quote, it's that bass. For everything, recording, live, surfing. Anyway, back to my album, which we haven't spoken about at all.
We've spoke all about who's on it and all the songs and the chord changes in Never Too Old to Rock and Roll.
13 songs on it, mate. This song's about my caravan. There's a song about spooning. There's a song about my father-in-law, which I think if I do another single, I'm going to do a video for it, and that's a song called Taking Care of Mary, and that's about my mother-in-law. My father-in-law died with dementia. He was in the hospital. He was so worried about his wife. Her name was Mary, and he was, dying, but he was trying to get up all the time. Got to get back to May. Got to get back. She'd be worried about me. And it was heartbreaking. And when he was going, he was obviously still really, really stressed. My lovely brother-in-law, Alex, I wasn't there, but he said, it's all right, Dad. We're going to take care of Mum. It's okay. You can let go. And it really stuck with me, when I heard that story. He was the Lancaster pilot in the war. He was the top bloke. And he took his dementia with grace. I mean, he'd say something, and then you say, you just said that, and he'd just laugh. He didn't get angry or anything like that. He was such a nice guy. And he was just devoted to his wife and family. And to see people go downhill, if it happens to me, well, I won't know, will I?
It's just all that history, all that journey just kind of disappears, doesn't it? That's heartbreaking.
He was 93, and he never talked about himself. It's such a story. I am digressing, but so what? Myself, my missus, 4 of us from the family took those 2 away round Oxfordshire because he said he'd been training there in the war. We were just talking about it. So, let's go back there. He didn't have a clue where he was. And I don't know why I do this. I kind of do magical mystery tours. And I just turned up this road and we came to an airfield. He said, you know what? I think this is the place where I trained. And anyway, we get there. I got out of the car. This bloke goes, what do you want? What's going on here? Why are you doing here? Really like that. And I said, I've got my father-in-law in the car. He thinks he trained here in the war. He said, excuse me, I do apologise. He went to the car. I said, good afternoon, sir. It's an honour to meet you. Would you please come in? I'd like to show you around inside. And there was a door and it was full of other people who trained there in the war. And he said, I'd really appreciate if you'd sign this. Anyway, he turned away and said, I expect you'd like to go up again, wouldn't you? And he said, yeah, I would love to, So he said, all right, come here 9 o'clock tomorrow. He was a Lancaster pilot. There's only 2 Lancasters flying left. But in a trainer, he was so crippled with arthritis, he had to lift him in, I mean, he was unbelievable, this guy. We're sitting there watching and all of a sudden we see it take off and he's in the front and he's flying the plane. It was an amazing occasion.
I bet he felt like $1 million when he came back.
Well, he was very happy, Yeah, he's a lovely man. So that's what that song's about. Anyway, it's about him, popping his clogs. On a happier note, the song's about never too old to rock and roll, which is a fact, by the way. It's not an opinion, it's a fact.
100%. John, I'll let you go.
All right, Cocker.
I want to wish you all the luck with the new album, the upcoming Status Quo tour, and tour dates later in the year.
Thanks for having me. Hello.
Thanks so much to Rhino Edwards for taking some time to chat and share some great stories here on the Straight to Video podcast. So much stuff crammed into an incredible career. I'm sure there's got to be a book sometime down the line. Make sure to keep up to date with everything he's doing over at rhinosrevenge.com, and all upcoming tour dates for Status Quo can be found at statusquo.co.uk. So that's all for this week's podcast. Want to thank you all for continuing to listen each week. Got some cool chats coming up, and I'll be back next Friday for a brand new episode. So until then, make sure to always be kind. Please rewind and unwind, and I'll speak to you all real soon.